What's up guys, Alex Gamble here. In today's video, we're going over the 4 keys you need to build muscle as a beginner. I know what you're thinking, Alex, you're 5 foot nothing and you're not big. That's okay, I agree with you, but check out this photo on the left. So this is me just before about a year or two I got into lifting. Don't ask me why I'm in an ice bath. This was in Malaysia after a football competition. It's just what we were told to do, okay? And then on the right photo going up now is me about, I think it's roughly 10 to 12 years later. As you can see, did manage to put on a little bit of muscle as a natural lifter. Definitely not a crazy physique, definitely not massive. Couldn't agree with you more, but I have helped people over the last 8 years with my personal training business, put on muscle, lose body fat, and change the way they look. So hopefully that's enough for you to listen to this. If not, all good. Anyway, let's dive straight into it. So the first thing you need to get down packed to put on solid muscle as a beginner is your training. The reason that training comes before nutrition in this instance is because even if your diet was perfect, you have to be weight training or resistance training in some form if you want to build muscle, because your muscles need stimulus, they need an adaptation and a reason to grow. So with your training, I would highly recommend training in between 3 to 6 times per week with weights. 6 definitely being on the higher end. You can definitely get away with 3, 4, 5 sessions and you're still going to put on some wicked muscle. In terms of your workout split, like what day you hit each muscle group, there is no perfect workout split, so I'd just find one that you enjoy, and this can change as you go. So ideally you'd be training each muscle group minimum of once or twice per week, every single week. That includes legs. A super simple way to do this is basically get the days that you're going to train and then just slot muscle groups into each of those that you think are going to work nicely. I'll give you a few good examples that I really enjoy to get you started. Of course, depending on how many days you train, this will change, but a few of my favorite splits to do are upper body, lower body splits. So if you train 4 times a week, it might be upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. Another one of my favorites, and my clients love this one, is push-pull legs. So if you train 3 times per week, you could put legs in the middle. I would do a push workout, a legs workout, and a pull workout. Or if you do 6 times per week, you'd basically repeat that with a second version of those days. And then of course, you have your full body splits where you basically train nearly every muscle group in each session. Personally, not a big fan of those, but that's a side note. And of course, lastly, you have your bro splits, which is basically where you just train 1 muscle group per day, but that only works if you're going to train at least 5 or 6 times per week. Awesome, so you know how many days you're going to train, you have a workout split. Now, what exercises should you do? A very simple guide is going to be your main compound movements, compound meaning multi-joint movement. Think of your big heavy lifts like bench press, squats, rows, pull-ups, dips, things like that. You're generally going to want to put those early in the workouts when you are fresh, you're not as fatigued. And then your isolation movements, think single joint or single muscle movements, think bicep curl, tricep push down, things like that. You're generally going to want to put those more towards the end or the middle of your workout because they don't require as much energy for those. In terms of sets per muscle group, that's a whole nother video in itself, but just to get you started, I would recommend in between 10 to 20 sets per muscle group, 20 definitely being on the higher end and 10 obviously being on the lower end, but you will still see great results if you do 10 hard working sets per muscle group per week. What about rep ranges? Okay, for your rep ranges, highly recommend in between 6 to 15 reps for basically all of your exercises. As a beginner, I definitely wouldn't recommend going lower than 6 because you're gonna increase the chance of injury because you'll still be learning good form and technique, which means that just going heavier and heavier, it's gonna be harder to maintain good form, and I just wouldn't go there just yet. Which leads me to my next point is your training intensity. So you have the gist of your training program down now, you know kind of how you're gonna structure it. The main thing that will get you from average results to great results is the amount of effort you put into each set and how close you take those sets to failure. Now, obviously as a beginner, as long as you're kind of doing somewhat right, you're honestly going to grow muscle. So you're in the best position ever to start going to the gym. It is the best time to go to the gym as a beginner because results are never going to be that fast again. But of course you want to optimize that. So I'd highly recommend trying to push each set close to failure as you can, maybe leave 1 to 2 reps in the tank on most of your sets. Now, failure meaning when you can't perform that movement with perfect form and technique. So for example, try to keep the last few reps looking similar to the first ones. Obviously it's just going to feel a lot harder. The last thing I want you to do with your training is just have that structure, that program that you've made for yourself, and just follow that for at least 4 weeks, because this is going to give you enough time to get used to the movements and it's going to give you enough time to progressively overload. Which leads me to progressive overload. Something I nearly missed out on is the main thing you want to focus on, apart from what we just went through, is obviously lifting more weight or doing more reps or using better form and technique as time goes on. That's generally the main driver for muscle hypertrophy. So it's the main driver for building bigger muscles is progressively overloading. Like I said at the start, your muscles need a stimulus to grow. So therefore we have to add more weight or more reps or something on top to make the sets harder, to make you have more volume. Basically means you're doing more work over time. Super simple, right? So you do more, you get more out of it. basically all it is. Moving on to number 2, we have nutrition. Nutrition coming in at the second most important thing, because like I said before, you have to be training in order to build muscle. Now, of course, your nutrition has to be in the ballpark as a beginner to get some good muscle building results. So generally speaking, if you want to put on muscle, you need to be eating in a calorie surplus, which basically means eating more calories than you burn on a daily basis. So you want to be eating at least 100 to 300 calories above that maintenance to put on some good weight, to put on some good muscle. Now, if you are a complete beginner and this is going to be your first few weeks, or you're within your first 6 months of proper training, you could probably eat around maintenance calories, which means eating just as much as your body needs, and you're still probably going to put on some good muscle. In terms of where to put most of your focus with your nutrition, number 1 is definitely going to be calories. You have to make sure you're hitting that calorie target, and number 2, most importantly, is going to be make sure you're hitting enough protein. So a super simple guide for you is eating double your body weight in kilos of protein. So 2 grams per kg of body weight. For example, if I'm 80 kilograms, I would be eating minimum of 160 grams of protein per day. That's going to put you in a very optimal range for building muscle. So you've got your calories, you've got your protein. The next thing to focus on is obviously trying to get majority of those calories, I'd say about 80%, through whole food nutritious sources. So things like lean meats, veggies, fruits, things like that. The other 20% of your calories are going to come through your favorite fun foods, aka usually processed junk food. The reason why you'd have those in there is just to keep the plan sustainable and to keep it enjoyable, because I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you want to build muscle not just now, you want to keep it for the long term as well. So sustainability and enjoyment is a decent part of the process. That's all for nutrition. We're going to keep it nice and simple today. If you do want me to dive into any of these topics much further, obviously because each one of these topics could have their own video, let me know. The third thing you need to build good muscle as a beginner is going to be good recovery. The reason why good recovery is important is because that's actually where the growth happens. So the muscle growth doesn't happen inside the gym, it happens after and outside the gym with your recovery. Now with recovery, there's a few things that are key. The first one is going to be good quality sleep. So you want to get about at least 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep. Keep it nice and simple. The second thing for recovery is going to be good nutrition. So like we said, try to get lots of your calories through good whole food nutritious sources and keep that protein intake nice and high. That's going to be key for recovery. A couple other things as added bonuses is going to be staying well hydrated throughout the day and especially throughout your workouts. And the last thing is, the best you can, control your stress management, as this can help with muscle building as well. And last but not least, number 4 for building muscle as a beginner is going to be consistency. The reason why this is last is because I'm sure you already know this. Whatever you want to do in life, whether it's build muscle, lose body fat, grow a business, do whatever, you need to be consistent. Be consistent with all 3 things we just went through: your training, your nutrition, and your recovery, and I promise you will build great muscle over time. I'm sure you're thinking I left out something, maybe supplements. Okay, so let's quickly cover supplements. I know you're going to want to hear this. So the only supplement I highly recommend to all my clients when they're first starting off is a good whey protein powder. Now I don't even really classify this as a supplement, it's more of a food group, but the reason why I put it in there is because having a good whey protein powder just makes those things we spoke about much easier, especially with hitting that protein target. It just makes it so much easier if you can have 2 scoops of protein per day, whether you have this just by itself with water as a protein shake, or you put it in your food like oats and overnight oats to make those higher in protein. It's going to easily knock off 50 grams of protein from your daily needs. And other than being super helpful for hitting protein, it's also super convenient. You can take it with you if you travel, you can take it on the road, in the car, and basically there's no cleaning, there's no cooking. It's pretty good. So that's why I highly recommend protein. And if you have been training for a little bit and you really want to step it up a notch, I would highly recommend getting some creatine monohydrate as well. You only need to take 3 to 5 grams a day. I wouldn't even worry about like loading it or doing any of that stuff you've probably seen on the internet as of now. Just take 3 to 5 grams every day, even on your rest days, and you don't need to cycle off it. Just keep doing that. You'll be sweet. So that's it. I think we covered everything there. Those are the 4 keys that you need to build some solid muscle. And if that video was helpful, please feel free to hit that like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one.